Hey guys, welcome to the Frack and Friends show. Today's guest is my friend Mercedes. I forgot your last name. Hay?
Yep.
Oh, it is. At least you didn't say no, it's Hi or something, right?
Hi.
Hello, how's it going?
It's going. It's a relaxing Monday.
It is actually Monday. That's one thing I never talk about on the show is what day I'm filming. This is done on Monday and it'll be released on Thursday night. So, first of all, welcome to the show. And this is a Frack and Friends show where we just bring on different people and talk to them, whether they're a celebrity, whether they're just a normal person. Everyone's a person, but, we all are different in some kind of way. So, I want to first start off with an introduction about you. Why don't you go ahead and give us an introduction and just tell us a little about yourself?
Okay. My name is Mercedes Hay. I live in Florida. I lived in Florida all my life. Um, I like 90s, 2000s music and movies. Um, name any concert, artist, celebrity.
Mm.
I'll say that's my favorite.
Perfect.
I'm a big 90s, 2000s nerd.
Oh, the 90s and 2000s, my decade, our decade, some of the best music, some of the best foundations were implanted in the 90s, and still today, it's still a part of this pop culture that we live in. And which brings us to the music. We'll go ahead and start talking about, the music of the 90s. Uh, what were some of your, music influences or people that you love to listen to or love to listen to today?
Uh, well, I grew up listening to like classic rock with my parents.
Oh, nice.
So the first the first CD that I would listen to constantly over and over was Janis Joplin.
What?
Yes,
I've
I
never met
remember.
anyone who ever said that answer.
Yep, I would have that CD constantly in my room. My mom would be constantly asking where it is. I'm like, I don't have it, and then like I have it. So yeah, that was the CD that I would have playing over and over. And then
Wow, Janis Joplin, man, that's someone I haven't heard anyone mention on the show for real. But I mean, wow. Okay, tell me a little more.
well, let me see here. I like Aerosmith. I like
Mm,
the Rolling Stones, the Beatles. Beatles was a big part in my house.
nice.
I had the Beatles, the number one
Hmm.
album. So that I would also listen constantly over. So I'm a little bit of everything. I like the boy bands. I like the Beatles, Rolling Stones, name it. I've heard it.
Oh yeah, I mean, and there was a thing back in the day called, the radio, and
Yes.
that is where we discovered all this amazing music. But we also had a thing called CDs. We also had things called music stores that we would go into, and I don't know if you guys have one, but I remember going into DJ's music store as a child and putting on headphones and selecting on a little screen what song I want to listen to. Or it used to say there used to be like a scanner. You go scan a CD, and it used to like give samples, so you know what you're buying beforehand. Hey, this is in the late '90s.
Oh wow, that's cool.
Yeah,
No, the only music store that I've been into is the FYE store. The FYI for your entertainment
yeah.
store. Yes.
Wow, come on. So you didn't have anyone local?
I mean, there is a CD store. It's
Yeah,
called a Disc Exchange that still has like
yeah.
collectible shirts and stuff like that. That's
Wow.
where I sometimes go in there and get my CDs or DVDs, and so that's one place that is still around today.
And that's one thing that isn't around today in this area is music stores. sad to tell you, but the only music store in this city is Walmart. And they don't even carry CDs much of any anymore. I mean, the selection is so limited base, and it
It's
makes me sad.
it's the same as Target as well. Like every time you go
Yeah,
in, like when you know a CD is going to be released, it only has that one shelf of like
literally,
the vinyls and the CDs, and then the rest is books and games. And it's like, yeah,
it's
it's like what
disappointing.
happened? It is.
We always talk about, on the show, one of the recent things is, New Kids has made a song called Bring Back the Time, and stuff like that. That's the things I miss. I miss going to music stores. Vinyls wasn't a big thing when I was growing up for me, but CDs and you know the now CDs, things like that were a discovery to music. That they were the blame for me knowing so much about music, because when a now CD would come out every few months, they had 12 or 16 tracks, and had Ashante, the Backstreet Boys, Hanson, I mean, you name it. Every artist that we all know was on a now CD, maybe even multiple. You know, and it's something that I really truly miss, just being able to go to a store and listen to CDs. Nowadays, we live in a whole different kind of world. Our world has evolved. I would say for the
Everything,
good and bad.
yeah. Because everything is like on streaming. You can find it on
Everything
Spotify,
is
Apple Music, and it's,
a touch of a button. A touch of a
yep.
button. Or you say, hey Alexa. I can't say it too loud because she'll turn on, but you say that and you tell her play anything you can name, and she plays it instantaneous. And I remember growing up, I had a black book, and I'm sure you might have had the same thing, a black book full of CDs, the CD collections.
A CD
uh,
binder holder. Yep.
yeah, that's right. It was a CD binder, and I just remember having like, one of them that had like a '96 CD holder. I mean, it's crazy thinking about that because I haven't thought about that in years. But now my CD collection is on Spotify. I have 8,000 songs on there for $10 a month. And it's so crazy because back in the day, if you wanted to listen to something, you either had to record it with a cassette tape from the radio, or you had to buy the CD. And I mean, let's be honest with you. Most people bought the CD. You know,
Yes.
it's
I
it's
remember
crazy.
I remember when I seen Justin McCartney for the first time in concert, and the Jonas Brothers opened up for them.
Oh,
I want to say it was probably like a couple weeks, maybe a month later, that they released their first album. It's About Time.
oh man.
I remember being in the back seat of the car, and my parents took me to Walmart to go physically buy the CD. Every year, the Jonas Brothers uh, would release a new album. My
Mhm.
dad made it like a every year thing for me to go buy the Jonas Brothers CD. That was
Man, and it brings back the memories too. Even for me, with my experience, one of the most earliest memories I can recall is, Black and Blue by the Backstreet Boys came out. Well, let's even go further. Yeah. So Black and Blue came out, and I remember like my grandma bringing me to DJ's music store, and at that time she paid like, 18 $16 or something for the cassette version. I'd rather own cassettes at that time. For some reason, as a child, I didn't get into CDs until probably like 4 or 5 years later. But I used to buy the cassette tapes for everything. Aaron's Party, Come Get It. Black and Blue, the Hits Chapter One. And I just remember my grandma bringing me, the day Black and Blue came out to DJ's music store and buying it. And I can just remember everything about it. I could remember the smell of DJ's music store. It's so crazy how the brain operates, but um,
I
memories like that is great.
I remember having I actually had a cassette tape. It was the when NSYNC and Britney Spears did the duo album was on one
Oh.
album, and I had
Hmm.
the CD, and then I had the cassette tape as well. And I remember putting it in my little boombox thing
Yeah,
and putting it in. I was like, oh, okay.
it's crazy though. I mean, there was nothing like having a CD, nothing like having a cassette tape. I was a big computer gamer growing up, and I just remember playing these games like Spy Fox and Pajama Sam and Putt Putt Goes to the Moon and 17 other Putt Putt games. And I always had the CD. I always had the CD. I remember that sound of opening up the computer and just hearing, and it's so crazy how this world has changed. And like I said, it's for the good and the bad in so many different ways. But obviously, the way it's become for us to be able to listen to music, watch movies with streaming and everything, it's been it's been a breeze. It's a game changer in so many ways. And because like when I'm in my car, I just hit shuffle and it shuffles 8,000 plus songs, on all the trips that I take all the time. And it's just, I don't know. Like I said, there's just something different about having a CD in your possession. And then, like, I remember opening up the center console and there's all your CDs, or you at least had a binder. You have to put in, now that's what I call, music 18, and just put it in, it's just, you know, the world has changed in so many different ways. And I do miss doing those things, even though it was more work. It really was. But as a kid, I guess growing up, you always hear the older people say, when I was a kid, we did this, and now we're starting to do that too. And
Yep.
and I think it's because it's things that we miss. It's things that we love doing. It's things that became a habit because it's just what we grew up knowing what to do. And like I said, I'm not against technology. I think it's good and bad. But as far as things that like CD players or remember those things that you used to just, it was like one earpiece and you used to insert it. It's like a
Hit clips.
cartridge. Yes, the hit clips.
I
Okay. Like those are just, I remember I could still hear Britney Spears singing Stronger. I could still
I
remember hitting it and pressing play. Like, wow,
I
man.
think I had I think I had an 18s one. I had a Jack 5.
Oh, you had them
I'm
all.
sure I had like I had a collection of
I had
them.
like three. I had Show Me the Meaning of Being Lonely. I had Back Here, I think it was for BB Mac. And then I had Stronger. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Bye 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 or It's Gonna Be Me, one or the other. And Stronger by Britney Spears. And man, just so simple. Now they used to be
Yes.
expensive though, like the cartridges.
Yes.
For what? It was like 15 seconds, 30 seconds of the song.
I think it was like I think it was like 30 seconds.
Yeah,
I would say. Yeah.
that's so crazy. And people were probably like, "What are hit clips?" It was literally clips of music hits that you just insert into this little thing, little bitty tiny thing, and you just listen to it. It was so weird.
Yes. And then if you still don't know what hit clips is, just Google it. Here we go.
Yeah, yeah. We'll post a picture up here because I can still. It's so weird. I can still feel the texture of it. It's so crazy. But
Yes.
so let's talk about some concerts. Tell me about your first concert experience.
My first concert experience, I was Jess McCartney.
Oh, nice.
Yes, it was the first time that I seen Jess McCartney. That was also the time when Jonas Brothers was
Mm,
coming out that time. So
wow.
I got to see the Jonas Brothers before they became the Jonas Brothers, basically.
That's true. That's true. And that
Yes,
was in 2004?
I believe so. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. That was like almost 20 years ago, Mercedes. Do you
Yes,
do
it
you
was.
do you feel old?
Yes, I do.
Almost 20. Do you ever think about that? Like for me, I get very sad a lot. People don't know this, but I get very sad a lot. I was just watching a movie. I was watching High School Musical the other day, and I just began to be very sad that the first one is almost 20 years old. And thinking back, I watched the premiere of that.
I remember watching it on Disney Channel when they had the premiere party, and it was like, it's crazy.
I get very sad when I see like okay, yeah. So I get very, very sad when I see people that I loved as a child turn into 80 years old now. Like it's crazy because the other day I was looking up some information on some actors, and it was Robert De Niro's birthday. I'm a huge Robert De Niro fan, and I just began to be very sad once it said 79 years old. I said, "What do you mean by that? Like when did this happen?
Yeah.
It's crazy looking back and thinking back. Even for concert wise, because those Jesse and the Jonas Brothers, they were so young.
Yeah,
And
they were.
I just can't wrap my brain around the idea of how much time has passed. And what's funny is even like the Jonas Brothers and Jesse, like they still sound relatively the same, in so many different ways. And it's just so crazy because even going back to concerts with like boy bands and such, seeing these guys sound pretty much replicate their 97 self to because I don't know how I'm gonna do. I'm almost 30. I'm about to hit 30 in December. I don't know how I'm gonna sound in 15 years or 10 years. Will I still be able to sing the way I do? I don't know, but I surely hope so. But yeah. So, was there any particular concert memories for you that kind of stand out to just thinking about
Oh man, I've been to a lot of concerts, so
that?
I would have to say my favorite has to be the My 2K tour because that's
Oh,
when I got to take a group meet and greet with O Town, Dream, Ryan Cabrera,
oh,
and 98 Degrees. So to meet all four groups and take a picture and then
yeah,
be able to hear the 98 Degrees acoustic set before I took the photo
yes.
was everything, and being in the front row as well.
Oh
It was
man.
it was it was everything.
So I kind of feel terrible because I was supposed to go see the Pop 2000 tour with O Town and LFO and a lot of other folks, and I don't know, for some reason will be honest with you, I had it in my calendar, but I guess like we just talked about, the time passed, and then yesterday night I realized it that it was Saturday. But for some reason I was thinking it was next weekend. But the O Town LFO, all those guys are awesome, man. They're amazing. They really truly appreciate their fans. Whether you pay money to see them, or sorry, whether you pay for the VIP in the 3 different tiers, or whether you just buy a shirt in the end for like 50, $60 and you get a free selfie, they still take the time to speak to anyone and everyone. Much respect and much love to them. I mean, I've personally met them, backstage a few different times, and I'm telling you, they are so genuine to their fans. So that's going to lead me to what or who was one of your or was one of the most exciting, people that you've gotten to meet, besides O Town and such.
That's a hard question.
I
Let
know
me
you've
think
met a
here.
lot of people, and conventions also included in this too. But I've met a lot of people, and I can't decide, so I would not even be able to answer this question.
I would, oh, I would honestly say it has to be, unfortunately, O Town, because when
Yeah.
I did the poster thing where you got to meet them afterwards, get it signed, get a selfie,
Oh, that's
and
cool. There was a poster.
it was a poster.
Oh, that's cool.
Yes.
Wow.
So Trevor was the first one that I got to take my selfie with, and he was so
Mm,
sweet.
yeah.
And he could tell that I was a little bit nervous, and he made me feel comfortable.
Yeah, he even now, even just recently, that I've seen him, like he is an extraordinary individual. I mean, truly heart to heart, just kind of guy, and so I can definitely attest to that as well.
Yes. All of them are actually sweet and amazing and kind. But
Yeah,
if I have to, Trevor is the one that made me
yeah.
feel right at home, basically.
And it's always good having that kind of experience because we live in a world today where people even go to these comic conventions and the celebrities are, don't want to speak to you. They just want you to take the picture and go. And it's always amazing to be able to meet someone who's not exactly like a hero, but someone that you loved and loved your entire life, and they live up to the expectations or even exceed it. Like Trevor, I'm sure exceeded expectations because you were like super super nervous, and here he comes and he just makes you feel right at home. You know?
Yes. I would have to say him and Jeff Timmons from 98 Degrees both made me
Oh.
feel welcome, because I was gonna try to get a selfie with Jeff Timmons before like the meet and greet and stuff outside the venue, but
Hmm.
when I showed up, of course, right at time when everything was happening, he pointed me. He knew that he was waiting to take a photo with me, so I stood in the middle of Jeff Timmons, and he like kneeled down like at my shoulder length and was
Oh,
in. Yeah,
that's really really neat. That's
yes,
amazing. That's absolutely awesome.
yes.
Jeff Timmons is an amazing individual as well. I think he's my favorite 98 member, just because he's just always very, very down to earth and very, very kind. And um, you meet some amazing people, and don't get me wrong, I've met some of my favorite people in the industry and have been absolutely devastated by the time I walk out or walk away, and it is the most awful thing ever. But then I come back and I go to an O Town show or such, and it's just it's like a 180 turn because it's just so different, especially the fan interaction. And because a lot of times I'll go places, and I won't mention names out of respect, and also I don't want to like die on the internet, but I'll go to some places and I'll get brushed off like I'm nothing. I'm just a dollar sign. And, and then I'll just go to an O Town show and they're like, hey, man, how's it going? And, how's your dog? I mean, just good conversations, so much more in depth than that. But
Yes,
um, it's just, it's amazing to see people like that who have been doing this for 20 plus years now, and still, and they're still genuine, they're still authentic, And I can definitely say like O-Town as a group, they've always been that way. From what people have
Yes.
told me, from people have seen them 500 times. And there's people who have. I mean, there's people who go to 35 out of 40 dates every tour, and the guys never change. Even
No.
if you go 35 times, they still, it's completely like open conversation, and just very, very authentic, and they're just happy to be able to do something that they love and still have, I'm going to say, this amazing and incredible fan base, because the Townies go hard. I've said it numerous times, but the Townies go hard. And, the very first time I was in Houston for a O-Town show, last year, I'm telling you, I've never felt more welcome anywhere else for any concert in my life. And maybe, I mean, a big part of that was because people knew the frickin' Frack show. But they were just so amazing to me. And I formed a lot of friendships. I've even gone to see Backstreet Boys recently with quite a bit of them, actually. There was like maybe 10 people or so that I knew of that was in the same area as us, and we all met up. And uh, you know, so I very much love the Townies, and I love O-Town. I love the guys, and you know, um, it's just been it's been a ride. Becoming this new Townie since last year.
Yes, I would say O-Town is amazing. I mean, I've only seen them once in my life, but like even
Yeah.
like the other day, it was like 6 years that I seen. It was like,
Wow,
it's been that long since I've met them.
that's
It,
crazy.
yes, it's like I guess I need another O-Town show.
I know, and I feel really bad. I'm probably gonna have to message Trevor and apologize and be like, I lost track of time, man. I lost, but I've been working so hard. Lot of 11 o'clock, nights that I'm just getting home, and the time flew by. The time flew by, and but I I am ready for some upcoming concerts, and which that's what I want to ask you about. Is there anyone you go and see upcoming?
There's two that I'm planning on. I want to go see Panic at the Disco,
Oh,
and then I want to go see Carrie Underwood in February.
oh, that's pretty cool. I
Yes,
hear she puts on an amazing show.
I hear that too, and I see it from like the CMA Fest that she does
Yeah.
on ABC, and it looks amazing.
Yeah, her backgrounds and everything is just always like has a wow factor to it. And
Yes,
speaking of Panic at the Disco, man, that's throwing it back to the 2004 or so era as well. Panic at the Disco was a huge part of my life, and it continues being so. Shout out to Brennan Urie, because his new album just came out Friday. It was literally a tribute to some of the greatest rock and roll songs and people that you and I both love. And I listened to it quite a few times now because I do drive a lot, and I was very impressed. It still had that 2004 Panic at the Disco sound. They kind of went back to the early days with the sound, and that was pretty awesome. What was your experience with listening to Panic at the Disco for the first time? Because when I first heard of them, it was on the radio. I'm sorry, yeah, it was on the radio, and then the crazy music video released of them, for I Write Sins Not Tragedies. But what was your first experience or exposure with Panic at the Disco?
I actually remember watching that video on MTV myself, but I would say listening to their album that just came out is
Hmm.
really my first Panic at the Disco
Nice.
experience.
Yeah.
And I also listened to the album while I was at work, on shuffle for like on repeat, playing
Yeah.
it over and over again, and it's absolutely amazing.
Yeah, and it's just amazing to see. I know it's not the OG, most bands it's never the OG guitar, the OG, I mean, the only exception is Red Hot Chili Peppers and people like that. But, you know, Brendan Urie, is continuing to do these vocals. I mean, I Write Sins Not Tragedies was like 17 years ago. So if you think about it, I'm almost 30. I mean, 17 years ago, I was basically 12 years old, and I just remember listening to it, but I remember watching the video on MTV and everything and just being stunned. Like it was just, there wasn't that raunchiness much on the radio, and so much controversy with that song. But he's only getting better and better. I mean, a couple years ago, he had done a Panic at the Disco album, and he did all the vocals by himself. He did everything by himself. He created the whole album. Um, this, sorry, this was at the time when he did that, it was a transition. He was getting new bandmates, new different people, and he created one of the best albums I've ever heard in my life. I mean, it went #1 on Billboard. I mean, that has to say something, for someone who did
Yes.
I think he even did all the instruments. It was like 11 or 12 different instruments. And he basically did it solo, and you hear 5 different vocals and everything. It's all him, but my question about these things, is what are your thoughts on people who are continuing to do this craft of music or even movies all these years later? And, these guys are still touring, still selling out arenas. We talked about boy bands earlier. I mean, that's the most perfect example you can always say, because boy bands itself, they continue selling out arenas and pavilions. But what are your thoughts on people who are just who never quit?
Oh man, I would say that they have. I would say they all do it for their fans, and you can
Yeah,
really tell.
yeah.
Like they don't stop. Like they continue doing new music, new tours, even doing like cruises like New Kids do,
Oh
or
yeah.
when Backstreet Boys did them. And it's, I would say they all do it for their fans because they know how much we want it as much as they want it as well.
I mean, can you imagine a world that we would live in where the Backstreet Boys were broken up? Like, can you imagine? Me personally, I couldn't imagine. I mean, I listen to everything. I always tell people there's more to life than Backstreet Boys or New Kids and such. But can you imagine where boy bands just broke up in the '90s? Where music would be today. I mean, BTS would not be a thing. I mean, all these amazing boy bands. I know people think BTS isn't amazing, but I can't deny people who can dance like that and sing at the same time. I mean, but imagine the world that we would live in without the things we love, right?
If there was a world with no boy bands, I don't know. I mean, granted, I mean, look at NSYNC and when
Yeah.
they broke up. I mean, I remember being in the NSYNC phase as well. And I
Yeah.
still am. I
Me
would
too.
like the opportunity to see them in concert. But
Yeah.
then you also had the Backstreet Boys at the time, so it was like another boy band to like fall back on basically.
The Backstreet Boys were your second choice.
Well, they were my second choice, yes.
Oh man, I wouldn't say that on air, but it's okay.
No, but
Yeah.
well, it was like a tie between NSYNC and Backstreet. They were both at
Yeah.
the one spot, but at the time you
Me
can only
too.
choose like NSYNC or Backstreet. But even though you were
Yeah.
secretly, well, I like NSYNC and Backstreet, you had to pick one. Yes.
I really don't remember this. Okay, I don't remember this rivalry. I never remember. Maybe I mean, I didn't have a lot of friends growing up, so maybe that's why. But I don't remember anyone telling me I had to choose. But you're like the 20th person who told me they were forced to choose because there was this big rivalry, and you either liked it or loved NSYNC or you loved Backstreet, but you couldn't like or love both. So
Yes.
kind of catch me up on that because no one's went on into detail. What started that? Do you remember?
I remember watching a TRL episode. They had the NSYNC and Backstreet fans because
Oh
it
wow.
was like the bunk bed edition, I believe. But I remember the whole NSYNC Backstreet Boys rivalry. And I remember I mean, don't get me wrong, I had NSYNC and Backstreet posters on my wall, but
Different sides.
different sides.
Yeah, yeah,
um, but see, I love those boy bands. Don't get me wrong.
yeah.
There would times each week I would say I love NSYNC, but then I would love Backstreet Boys more, and it
Oh
was hard
man.
because you like both of them, and it's like
Yeah,
they have both great vocals and great choreography, and
yeah.
it was a hard thing. I still get asked the question who I like in Sync or Backstreet Boys, and
Mm.
I had to tell them, well, truthfully, I liked both of them. But
Yeah,
as the years got on, unfortunately, NSYNC was no longer
yeah.
together. So Backstreet Boys is obviously the one that I go
I mean, no one's ever asked who do I like,
with.
Backstreet or NSYNC. I mean, I remember as a kid, people would ask, do you like the Backstreet Boys? Do you like NSYNC? But I guess I might have spaced out or I just wasn't available at that time because I don't remember anyone telling me I had to choose. But there's been so many people who said, oh yeah, and what would have been nice though, and you'll probably agree with this, but everyone has this idea of this horrible rivalry between both, and even though it was all done by pretty much Lou Pearlman, I mean that's the best way you can create a buzz about anything is some kind of boy band rivalry. I mean, it was very, very smart. It was a great business tactic and it worked. It 100% worked in every
Yes.
way, I would imagine Lou wanted it to. But what would have been great is, and maybe I don't think this happened, but if Backstreet and NSYNC went on, TRL or something and said like we're all friends. I mean, I know like they
Now
had
they
done,
are. Yeah.
yeah, and I mean, but back then, and I know it wasn't this crazy thing the way people are trying to play it as, but there was a bit of rivalry for sure. But I know they had like done basketball games together and different things like that, when all this was happening, um but man, I couldn't imagine living in a time where someone told me I had to choose. I just don't remember it, and I had no strings attached. It's gonna be me on the walls, and I had Backstreet next to it, and I had the teen magazines. I had all kind of I look like some kind of obsessed serial killer or something with all their their articles everywhere, and I mean, boy bands is such a huge part of my life as well, and it's just so crazy that I just don't remember. But then again, I was just focused on the music. Even now, like I don't, I hear things and I hear like news pieces about people or individuals, but I'm usually just focused on the actor as an actor and not something personal, and maybe that's probably why because I never got out that phase, and that's why this show kind of showcases you know this person not being this person but an actual person, and it's really really fun getting to know people because it's so different. It's so different when, I mean, don't get me wrong, these people, they have a stage persona and then they have their real persona. And a lot of times it crosses with each other. It's almost the same. But then you meet someone and you get them and you interview them, and it's just completely different. And it's cool because you're getting to know the real person. But I remember watching on TRL, and I remember seeing all these people, and the memories that flood with that. Like TRL was a big reason why I know music as well. Had some of the best music performances of all time. And so my last question, and we're going to stop here after, but I do want to ask you, I want you to go into detail, is what are your memories of TRL?
Oh man, I, re- I remember coming home after school, even
Oh
if
man.
like if there was like a certain celebrity like the Backstreet Boys or like Hilary Duff that was gonna
Oh
do like a performance or any kind of thing,
yes.
I would totally make sure I was home from the bus in the house so I can watch it. I remember watching like the premiere music videos when it came out of the songs, and that was my favorite.
I I remember everything. TRL is something I'll never forget. It was a big reason why I know the people now, and honestly, TRL created longevity for a lot of artists. You know, and I remember watching everything as far as the Backstreet Boys performing "I Want It That Way," Hilary Duff performing "Fly." I mean, it is mind blowing to think about all the people TRL had on. And it's the most saddest thing ever that it's, no longer because
Yes.
that is something they need to bring back. I mean, nowadays everyone goes to Good Morning America, the Today Show, The
Or the
View.
late night show,
Oh, I'm
or
sorry, the late night show. Yeah, and I
yeah.
mean, and they perform one song, but it's not like TRL.
No.
You had true fans, people who waited 24 hours, 48 hours, 72 hours before, camped out in New York City just to get into this place and be an audience member and watch these people perform. Now, with the Today Show, the way it works is you just go to ibota.com. No, yeah, I don't know, whatever. It's something one OBTTA. I don't know. So anyway, you go in there and you just register for tickets, and if you win, they say, hey, be here at this hour and everything, and they shoot it. But you know, TRL was literally for us. It was us. Like I used to always say, like, my life revolved around 3:30, or 3 o'clock when it came on after school. you
Yes.
know it's crazy thinking about that because you know TRL was just responsible for so much of my childhood, and I could blame them for knowing so much about music.
I remember watching the MTV Snowed In and
Oh yeah.
watching Jessica Simpson and Nick
Yeah,
Lachey and NSYNC and all that. I was like, okay.
it's so crazy thinking about that, man. And I was we had passed a TRL building a few times in New York City, quite a few times when I was there, um, because it's in Times Square.
Yes.
and and I just look up at those windows and just the memories of the things that took place in that room. You know.
Yeah.
So the last question is, what do you miss about the '90s and 2000s, and what would you bring back that isn't here anymore?
Oh man. Well, I think we're all still waiting for the Spice Girls to come back.
Oh, yes, indeed, we are. We are. That little
So
tease at the Olympics was not enough.
no, it was not. So I'm patiently waiting for Spice Girls to come back.
You've been very patient.
Yes. I
Wow.
think all of us are still waiting for that NSYNC reunion tour to happen, and
So much tease all throughout
so
these
much.
years. The
Yeah.
last 10 years has been nothing but teases and but they at least you could say this. They have been transparent and said it's not happening.
Yes. Oh, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot of things. I miss the original TRL days, the Toll
Yeah.
Request Live.
Yeah. I personally I miss, I talked about it before, but um I'll make an announcement soon about this, but there's a DJ that I miss calling from AOL, the AOL days, it was AOL kids. And there was a DJ on there you would call and request, play Backstreet Boys, play whatever, and play Ali and AJ, and I
Sort of
miss,
like Radio Disney.
yeah, it really was because I really truly miss calling him, and recently I've gotten the chance to speak to him, and we got some stuff in the works, like, and that is probably going to be my most proudest episode, bringing on someone like that who was a huge, and I mean huge part of my life for years. I'm going to say 4 to 6 years when I was young. I used to call in and say, can you play Backstreet Boys? And they used to bring on celebrities. I used to be able to call and talk to them, and man, I just miss those kind of days. The simplicity and the ability to just speak to, people on the phone like that.
Yes.
Well, I want to go ahead and say thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure, and we'll definitely do this again. And hopefully, people learn things. Hopefully,
Yes.
people's brains will just spark with the things that we're talking about. And because every time I have someone on the show, it always makes me sad in a lot of ways, and because it sparks things in my brain and my head, and it's like, things that I miss, and then for the next 2 weeks I'm just sad because I just miss these things, and I don't see anything that we're talking about ever to come back in the same way, at least,
No.
and but it's okay. We still got our boy bands. We still, most of the majority of the 90s people are all still touring still, still doing their thing, still selling out arenas, pavilions, festivals, everything. So I'm very thankful that we live in a time where the majority of the people we listen to are still alive and well. And yeah, it's just been, it's been an exciting many decades of being alive, but it's just been an amazing time getting to understand and know artists through their music my whole life, and then it's just even cooler when we get them on the show.
Yes.
So thank you again, guys. This is the Frack and Friend show. This is episode 19, going on 20 next week, and we'll see y'all later. Y'all take care.
Bye.